The character of Godzilla is certainly an icon of the cinematic age, even having a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But whilst most people will know Godzilla is a creation of Japan, in more recent years, audiences will know the character from Legendary Pictures' adaptation of the Godzilla franchise. And even looking at some of the older Godzilla films from Toho, the Japanese company that produced those movies, you expect kaiju versus kaiju, these giant monsters fighting each other for dominance in the world. And whilst people certainly like to see these big action sequences of giant monsters flailing at one another, throwing each other into buildings and wrecking cities, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good movie. But what makes a good movie? You've got to have great characters. Great human characters in this case. Godzilla -1 picks up in the aftermath of the Second World War. 2 atomic weapons have been dropped on Japan, and Japan has surrendered to the Allied forces. But our story follows a kamikaze pilot, who in the last days of the war bails out of his mission claiming a technical fault with his plane. Because of this, he is forced to land on an island full of mechanics whilst they try and identify the problem. However, that night, a creature called Godzilla emerges from the water. The soldiers and engineers on the island have the upper hand to try and kill this beast. Our kamikaze pilot is instructed to use the heavy machine gun to attack the creature. After not being able to take out the creature or even pull the trigger on the machine gun, Godzilla attacks the inhabitants of this island and wipes them all out, knocking out our hero. This kamikaze pilot awakes the next day to find everyone dead but him and an engineer. The engineer expresses that the pilot is a coward, having not conducted his mission as a kamikaze pilot, and his failure to shoot the creature led to the death of all the people on the island. However, the war is now over and he is sent home. Once home, the kamikaze pilot Kōichi has found out that his family are dead and his home in ruins. His neighbours also see him as a failure considering he was a kamikaze pilot and has returned. Perhaps his sacrifice in the war would have meant others would have lived. Having the story take place in the aftermath of the Second World War, Godzilla being a creation of the atomic energy that was dropped on Japan, certainly gives the story a unique backdrop, but also gives us a sense of what it would have been like to have been someone in Japan living after the war, once their country had been completely destroyed, not just by the atomic weapons, but by the general bombing of Tokyo. But where this story triumphs, our hero Kōichi must overcome his shame, the guilt he feels about not carrying out his mission as a kamikaze pilot, and we see the triumph of the human spirit, which is certainly very beautiful. We get to see this character grow and become part of the community once again, and put his life back together after the devastating outcome of the Second World War, but also he has to deal with the grief and the failure that he let because of his inaction when he had the chance to attack Godzilla. So much of this film is built on the human characters and the relationships that Kōichi forms over the movie. He makes new friends in his job, and he becomes a surrogate family for a woman who has also lost her home and has taken in a young child. And seeing this across the film, you see real human moments of interaction and growth, and what it means to have friends and what it means to have family, and go through the hardships and these horrors of war that the Japanese citizens experienced. But after the tests of more atomic weapons in the South Pacific, Godzilla absorbs some of the nuclear energy and becomes even bigger, and now he's looking for food. The monster Godzilla doesn't actually feature too heavily in this movie, but whenever he's on screen he certainly has such a presence, and I really felt some terror when watching him take out cities on the big screen. Maybe it's built up with the tension of these human characters who are going to receive something similar to the atomic bomb when Godzilla attacks. I felt a real sense of fear and dread whenever Godzilla attacked the cities, and seeing this character who in the Hollywood movies is portrayed as this anti-hero and protector of humanity, this version of Godzilla is just out for himself. He is a force of nature, similar to the atomic bomb. He will wipe out anything and everything in his path without prejudice. Considering this film had a budget of less than $15 million, I think this is a phenomenal piece of work. The CGI is very good, and whilst I've seen some criticism of it, I did not see anything as bad as what we see in the most recent Marvel movies, and considering they have budgets that are 10 or 20 times the budget of this film, it just makes me think, what are Hollywood actually spending the money on when they're developing these $200 million budget movies? At no point did any poor CGI or poor visuals take me out of the movie whatsoever. Maybe it's because the film is so engaging on the human level that you can forgive any poor CGI. But only on one watch, I don't think there's any poor CGI in this. I think Godzilla looks incredible, and the other visuals, and considering this is on such a small budget, I presume there would have been a lot of CGI and just creating big crowds of people running away from the monster and some of the sequences later in the movie. But they have really done a great job with the visuals of this movie. I think it looks phenomenal, and I am just blown away that it costs so little to make a film of such high quality. I'm not too familiar with the Godzilla brand from Toho. I've seen some of the earlier movies, and I've seen the Hollywood movies, or at least some of the Hollywood movies. But having this set at the end of the Second World War, following a hero who's dealing with the failure and the shame of not carrying out his mission as a kamikaze pilot, really brings this story to the next level. Though I don't think the story is too complex at all. And as I saw this with subtitles, as there's no dub available, I didn't think it was hard to follow whatsoever. I also give the film its credit that I think you could understand the film with the subtitles off and not speaking Japanese at all. You could watch this in silence, and I really feel like the movie would be just as impactful. Not to say that the sound design of Godzilla roaring and the soundtrack aren't phenomenal, but watching this with the sound off, I feel like you could easily follow the story and still get a great experience out of it. And that seems to be one of the highest praises you can give a movie if you can understand the plot without the sound. And whilst this film is certainly doing very well based on its budget, it's probably not going to do hundreds of millions at the global box office, but there is a push at the moment for Godzilla Minus One to show more screens across the USA and across Europe, and it has been announced that Japan is doing a re-release of the film in black and white. There have been a lot of great films this year from Hollywood. I really enjoyed Oppenheimer, and people know that's one of my favourite movies of all time now, and Christopher Nolan is a master of filmmaking, but seeing a film like this, I'm absolutely blown away by how perfect this film is, and the fact that it's in Japanese and you're going to have to read subtitles shouldn't put you off. I really feel like this film deserves to be seen by the masses, and I would really love people to get behind this film and make it a massive box office success. The film is already doing so well financially based on its budget, but if more people could get behind this film and increase its popularity, this will send a clear message to Hollywood overall, who seems to be just pushing out a lot of crap lately. And we've had enough of it. We need films like this, and this is really a phenomenal piece of work. I'm aware that the film has been out in the USA for a couple of weeks now, and in Japan for a month or so, but the film only came out a few days ago in the UK where I live, and quite a few people actually at the screening, which surprised me, so I do feel like this is being a sleeper hit, and the word of mouth is really promoting this movie, and people are going to get behind it. I still don't think it's going to blow the world away with its box office numbers, because I feel just the fact that it's a Japanese film is going to put off the Western audiences, but I really feel like you should give this a chance. I think most people who go and see this film will be absolutely blown away by what this film does, and this will make you fall in love with cinema once again. So if you haven't seen the film already, I implore you to please go and see it. And I'm going to say this may be one of the best films I have ever seen. I'm not just saying that, I really think this is a phenomenal piece of work. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Godzilla Minus One, and whether you enjoyed the film or not, and whether you could get behind pushing this to be a bigger box office success around the world. Let me know in the comments below. Please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure to click the bell icon to receive notifications for all of my videos. That's it for now. Thanks for tuning in.